This was an attack implemented by other countries and leadership in other countries and persons based outside of the United States on the leadership inside the United States in the form of false elections, putting people into power who were not the will of the American people. A national security emergency exists because if those people get into power and hold power, they can do things that kill people, that break things, that change the order, the balance of power in the world, a la 2020. In addition to everything he mentioned, cleaning up the elections, it's also about the ballots, specifically, precisely foreign interference in the form of printed ballots, printed in China and imported into the U.S., beyond the electronic and everything else. So there's foreign interference on lots of different levels. And then with collusion internally, and I'll be direct and say it, that Mr. Brennan, former CIA director, is in the crosshairs, and there's things happening right now that he certainly is aware of, and that one of the first dominoes to fall in order to establish this foreign interference and domestic participation by people in a position to influence the outcome of the election is going to be shown, and Brennan's going to be right in the middle of all of this. And once it's like shifting sands, if you ever stood on the beach and a really strong wave is going out and coming back in and going out, when you try to stand in one place, that water will just erode the sand under your feet. And you got to kind of get a moment where you got to get balance, rearrange, readjust in order to keep standing. These people that have been involved in this election interference in all sorts of different ways and managing that are going to feel the sand moving under their feet with things that are about to happen. And as they see one person go and then another, their ability to hold up in this situation is going to go away. Their ability to manipulate moving forward the elections is going to go away. With that in mind, certainly we have what we've done with the proposed executive order. It can't do the job by itself. We know from President Trump's executive order last March 25th, which was the 107th executive order signed at 1:07 in the afternoon. With that in place, which amongst other things precisely ordered that the states and the counties clean up the voter rolls around the country. And virtually nothing happened. It was a very precise executive order, gave them 180 days to clean up the voter rolls, the people that are registered to vote. No more, 2-3 different variations of your name or 100. No voting from vacant lots, from out of state addresses, things like that. Nothing happened. So the problem is an executive order alone is not sufficient to solve the problem. And as we saw from President Trump's office, and everybody should take this to heart to understand what I'm going to say in a moment, President Trump issued a pardon to Tina Peters as a federal pardon, presidential pardon. The state of Colorado, the governor of Colorado, chose not to recognize that. It's actually seditious. It's an insurrectionist type act to defy the authority of the president in this kind of a situation going into the state's activities. There's 1,000 issues related to Tina's case that are going on. But at the end of the day, the states are challenging the federal authority to be involved in many things, including, by the way, it's an election-related matter in Tina Peters' case. That's why, as a prelude in this executive order proposal that we have before the president that's been there for 10 months, uh, uh, the one that I saw prior to the president to the election in 2024 that was proposed was not in any way adequate to the task. And that's why the day after the inauguration, during a meeting out in DC, I asked others if they could help put this together. And they did. It's spectacular. Within the coalition, we have just amazing, amazing people, and came up with something that's really intricately beautiful and precise. That's what the White House is looking at. President Trump referenced that he had attorneys reviewing the details a couple months back when he said, I'm getting ready to sign an executive order related to these things. The attorneys have it right now and they're going through it. Well, I believe it was, this specific matter, what we had with our proposed executive order that he was reviewing. With that in mind, the only way to get absolute action on that executive order, which was proven that an executive order by itself is not adequate to the task by the 107th executive order, is to declare a national emergency. And within the context of that national emergency, that is of such a nature, of such a gravity, that the enforcement of it has to be done federally under a continuity in government type of premise, that without some type of policing power uh, to force implementation, that it would not be adequate to the task. And so there's a recognition that in this case, one thing that people have to understand, an attack on the vote, on the putting in place of leadership within a country through a fraudulent vote, is by international law considered the same as a nuclear attack. It's a weapon of mass destruction. A biological attack, it's a weapon of mass destruction. So in an international court, if you're reacting to an attack that's a WMD type attack, an attack on elections is the same as a nuclear strike or a biological attack. An attack on elections is a WMD. Therefore, a military response, a national emergency situation exists that we have to respond to, not with policing powers merely, something aimed internal, but the president declares it as a national emergency, changes hats from the chief of police hat aimed internally to the commander in chief's hat aimed at an enemy attack, which then implements military grade responses and authorizes use of military tools in order to protect the people and the contract between the people and the government, which is the Constitution, from an enemy attack from outside the country. This was an attack implemented by other countries and leadership in other countries and persons based outside of the United States on the leadership inside the United States in the form of false elections, putting people into power who are not the will of the American people. A national security emergency exists because if those people get into power and hold power, they can do things that kill people, that break things, that change the order, the balance of power in the world, a la 2020. When Biden was put in power as the president, things happened such as Ukraine. Things happened all across the world that lots of people died, lots of money was spent and misspent. And therefore, now America is in the balance. We're in a precarious situation. In order to maintain continuity in governance, you have two choices. You can try to maintain it from an internal side with proper policing, but it's an enemy attack from outside. The policing powers aren't adequate. There is an argument that the continuity in government operations should go to those that protect continuity in government between elected administrations. Who has that power? And it's by executive order under Jimmy Carter. It's the senior executive service, helping to maintain continuity between elected administrations and government across the country to keep a flow going, keep the lights on, keep things happening.
We are at war, and we must unite in truth. Subscribe for free at johnmichaelchambers.com for my monthly communique, which includes alerts, warnings, announcements, and access to my most valuable resource network to help you to navigate this storm. With your free subscription, you will also receive a digital copy of one of my books, Trump and the Resurrection of America, an Amazon 5-star rated book and 6-star rated by the late Robert David Steele. Won't you join me as we take our country back and redirect humanity on this much-needed course correction? Remain informed, empowered, and connected, and subscribe today at johnmichaelchambers.com.